A single drop of black liquid falls onto a blank page. It spreads slowly, like a tiny shadow. The page is no longer empty. A hand holds a simple pen above paper. The room is quiet. Only the soft scratching sound can be heard. Today, we see ink everywhere. In books, on screens, on signs in every city. But there was a time when ink was rare. A time when writing itself felt powerful, almost dangerous. Words can travel across distance. They can cross centuries. They can outlive the person who wrote them. But without ink, words fade. Without ink, knowledge disappears. Without ink, memory is fragile. The strange part was, this powerful tool began as simple soot, as ash from a fire. Long before printing machines, long before computers, people searched for a way to make marks last. Early humans drew on cave walls. They used charcoal and natural pigments. They wanted to remember animals, hunts, stars in the sky. These images told stories, but they were not yet writing. They were memory made visible. As villages grew into cities, memory alone was not enough. Trade became complex. People needed records. They needed lists. They needed proof. In ancient Mesopotamia, scribes pressed symbols into wet clay. The marks dried in the sun. Clay tablets were strong, but they were heavy, hard to carry. In ancient Egypt, something new appeared along the Nile River. A thin sheet made from reeds. It was called papyrus. Light, flexible. For the first time, writing could travel. It could be rolled and carried. It could move with people. But papyrus needed something else. It needed a substance that could flow. Something smoother than carving. Egyptian scribes mixed soot with water. They added plant gum to hold it together. Black ink was born. The mixture was simple. Burned material from lamps. Sticky sap from trees. They dipped reed pens into the dark liquid. They drew symbols with careful hands. Each stroke carried meaning. Hieroglyphs covered temple walls. Stories of gods and kings, recorded for eternity. But ink did more than praise rulers. It recorded taxes. It recorded laws. With ink, power became organized. With ink, governments became stronger. Writing created control. Few people could write. Scribes trained for years. Their skill was respected. Ink gave them authority. If something was written, it felt official. At the same time, far away in China, another ink story was beginning. During the Shang Dynasty, people carved symbols on bones. They asked questions about the future. These were oracle bones. The cracks in the bone revealed answers. The symbols recorded them. Later, Chinese artisans created a new type of ink. They burned pine wood to make fine soot. They mixed it with animal glue. The result was solid ink sticks, hard to dry, small and portable. To use it, they rubbed the stick against the stone. They added water slowly. A smooth black liquid formed, deep and rich in color, perfect for brush writing. Chinese calligraphy became an art. Each stroke carried emotion. Each line showed discipline. Ink was not just for records. It became expression. It became beauty. But the true power of ink was quiet. It allowed ideas to move from mind to page. In ancient Greece, philosophers wrote their thoughts. They asked questions about life and reason. Their ideas traveled across the Mediterranean, carried in scrolls, protected by ink. In Rome, laws were written and copied. Empire depended on documentation. Messages moved along roads. Sealed letters crossed borders. Ink connected distant provinces. But ink had limits. It could fade. It could smear. Over time, a stronger formula appeared, one that would change knowledge forever. It was called iron gall ink, made from oak galls and iron salts. Dark and durable. When first applied, it looked pale. But as it dried, it turned deep black. This ink lasted for centuries. Many medieval manuscripts still show its marks. Clear and readable, monks in quiet monasteries copied books by hand. Candlelight flickered beside them. Hours turned into years. They wrote religious texts, scientific observations, poetry. Every page required patience. Every letter required care. Ink demanded discipline, but something was changing slowly. Knowledge was no longer only for rulers. It was beginning to spread. Universities appeared in Europe. Students gathered in stone halls. They listened and took notes. Ink filled their notebooks. Ideas moved from teacher to student. Learning became shared. Still, copying books by hand was slow. A single text could take months, sometimes years. Few people owned books. Most knowledge lived in libraries, locked behind walls. But the world was restless. Trade expanded. Curiosity grew. Explorers wrote journals about new lands. Merchants kept records of goods. Scientists recorded experiments. The need for ink increased. The demand for written pages grew. Something bigger was coming. Few people knew it at the time. A quiet invention would soon change everything. Ink would meet a machine. The relationship between liquid and metal would transform how humans shared ideas. But that story was just beginning. For now, ink remained a patient companion, a dark river carrying human thought, waiting for its moment to flood the world. In a small workshop in Europe, metal letters lay scattered on a wooden table. Each one was carved in reverse. A man studied them carefully. He adjusted their shape. He imagined something faster than hand copying. His name was Johannes Gutenberg. He lived in the 15th century. Few people knew what he was building. He was not only inventing a machine, he was solving an ink problem. Printing needed a different kind of liquid. The old water-based inks were too thin. They blurred on metal type. They would not hold their shape. So Gutenberg experimented. He mixed it with oil instead of water. The result was thicker and darker. This oil-based ink clung to metal letters. It pressed clearly onto paper. It dried with strength. For the first time, ink and machine worked together. Page after page could be printed. The first major book he printed was the Bible. Its pages looked beautiful, almost like handwritten manuscripts. But the difference was speed. Hundreds of copies could now exist. Not just one. What happened next surprised everyone. Books became more available. Ideas began to travel faster. Ink no longer belonged only to monasteries. It entered towns and markets. It reached ordinary people. Printers opened shops in cities. The smell of ink filled the air. Paper stacked high against the walls. Pamphlets spread political opinions. Religious debates moved across borders. New voices appeared. With printed ink, authority could be questioned. Power could be challenged. During the Reformation, written words reshaped belief systems. Printed texts fueled change. Ink carried arguments. Ink carried protests. Ink carried reform. At the same time, scientists began sharing discoveries. Observations no longer stayed local. Astronomers printed star charts. Doctors printed medical diagrams. Knowledge became reproducible. Before printing, errors were common. Each handwritten copy might differ. Now pages looked identical. Consistency built trust. Readers believed what they saw. Ink gave information authority. Newspapers began appearing in the 17th century. They reported events from distant cities. People read about the wider world. Morning light entered homes. Families unfolded printed sheets. News arrived through ink. But ink was not always neutral. It could inform. It could also mislead. False stories could spread quickly. Rumors gained power when printed. Ink amplified voices. Governments noticed this. Some tried to control printing. Censorship laws appeared. Printers sometimes worked in secret. Hidden presses operated at night. Ink became quiet resistance. In the American colonies, pamphlets argued for independence. Written words inspired revolution. Across the ocean in France, political writings fueled unrest. Crowds gathered with printed papers in hand. Ink carried the language of freedom. It also carried the language of anger. Change moved through pages. Meanwhile, education slowly expanded. More schools opened. Literacy rates rose. Children learned to form letters. Their hands held pens dipped in ink. Writing became a basic skill. In the 18th and 19th centuries, new chemical experiments improved ink. Scientists searched for brighter colors. Blue and red inks appeared. Documents could now highlight important lines. Maps became more detailed. Steel pens replaced fragile quills. They were stronger. They required smoother ink. Factories began producing ink in bottles, uniform and ready to use. Mass production had begun. Ink traveled by ship and train, from Europe to Asia, from cities to villages. In Japan, woodblock printing flourished. Ink met carved wooden plates. Artists created delicate prints, landscapes, and everyday life scenes. Black lines shaped beauty. The world was filling with printed matter. Books lined shelves. Letters crossed oceans. But the strange part was, as ink spread knowledge, it also created competition. Newspapers fought for readers. Publishers fought for attention. Information became a business. Advertising appeared in bold letters. Posters covered city walls. Ink persuaded customers. Political cartoons used simple drawings. A single image could influence opinion. Ink shaped public thought. In courts, contracts were signed. Signatures carried legal weight. Ink confirmed identity. Banks relied on written records. Governments kept detailed archives. Paper trails grew longer. Explorers continued to write journals. Their notes documented distant lands. Ink preserved discovery. During wars, soldiers wrote letters home. Families waited for news in ink. Some letters carried hope. Others carried sorrow. Ink held human emotion. By the 19th century, printing presses roared loudly. Industrial machines moved quickly. Rolls of paper fed into spinning cylinders. Ink transferred in precise patterns. Thousands of pages per hour. Knowledge accelerated. Ideas moved at new speed. Society changed rapidly, but not everyone could read. Education was still unequal. Access remained limited in many places. Yet the direction was clear. Ink was no longer rare. It was becoming universal. In offices, clerks filled ledgers. Numbers and names covered pages. Business depended on written proof. In laboratories, scientists recorded data. Measurements were written carefully. Ink captured observation. Libraries grew larger. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling. Thousands of volumes waited silently. Each book was a container of thought. Each page carried preserved voices. Ink became a bridge across time. But technology never stops. New inventions were on the horizon. Another shift was coming. Ink had already changed knowledge once. Soon, it would face a new challenge. A challenge that would test its place in the modern world. The 20th century arrived with electricity. Cities glowed at night. Machines hummed in every direction. Offices filled with typewriters. Metal keys struck inked ribbons. Letters appeared instantly on paper. The sound was sharp and rhythmic. Click, clack, ding. Ink moved faster than ever. No more dipping pens into bottles. No more waiting for ink to dry. Writing became mechanical. Businesses expanded rapidly. Contracts were typed in neat lines. Ink looked cleaner and more uniform. Carbon paper allowed copies to be made at once. One strike created several pages. Information multiplied. Meanwhile, newspapers grew thicker. Morning editions became evening editions. The world felt closer. Headlines shaped public opinion. Bold black letters filled front pages. Ink could create fear or hope. During wars, propaganda posters appeared, bright colors and strong slogans. Ink called people to action. Few people questioned printed words. If it was in the newspaper, it must be true. But the strange part was, ink was not always honest. It could be controlled. Governments edited information. Some voices were silenced. Others were amplified. In totalitarian states, printing presses were watched carefully. Ink became a tool of power. Yet in hidden rooms, writers used small presses. They printed forbidden texts. Secret books passed from hand to hand, pages folded and hidden under coats. Ink became quiet resistance again. At the same time, schools expanded around the world. More children learned to read. Classrooms smelled of paper and ink. Chalk dust floated in sunlight. Education became common. Libraries opened to the public. Anyone could walk inside. Knowledge felt accessible. But another invention was growing silently. Not made of paper, not made of liquid. The computer appeared. At first, it was large and complex. Few understood its potential. Early screens displayed glowing green letters. No paper, no physical ink. Writers could type and edit instantly. Mistakes disappeared with a single key. Noise múltiples. Documents could be stored digitally. Thousands of pages inside a small machine. No shelves required. What happened next surprised everyone. Information began to move without paper, without ink. The internet connected computers worldwide. Messages traveled in seconds, across oceans and borders. Emails replaced letters. Blogs replaced some newspapers. Websites replaced printed catalogs. Ink factories noticed changes. Demand slowly shifted. Paper orders declined in some regions. But ink did not disappear. Printers still needed cartridges. Documents still required signatures. Laser printers used toner instead of liquid. Tiny particles fused onto paper. Technology evolved. Color printing became common. Photographs appeared in magazines. Images felt more alive. At home, children printed homework assignments. Parents printed forms. Offices printed reports. Ink adapted to new machines. Cartridges replaced bottles. Refills replaced mixing soot. Yet something subtle was changing. People began reading on screens more often. Paper books competed with digital files. Ebooks could be downloaded instantly. Thousands of titles in one device. No physical ink required. Newspapers launched online editions. Breaking news updated every minute. Faster than any printing press. Social media platforms appeared. Anyone could publish thoughts. No ink, no editor. The barrier to sharing ideas collapsed. Millions of voices filled the digital space. Knowledge became immediate, but speed brought confusion. Not all information was accurate. Not all sources were reliable. In the past, printing required effort. Editors reviewed content carefully. Ink cost money. Now, publishing could happen instantly, with a single click, without physical cost. The world entered the information age. Data moved invisibly through cables. No stains on fingers. Some predicted the end of ink. They imagined a fully digital future. Paper would disappear. But the strange part was, ink still felt trustworthy. A printed contract felt solid. A handwritten note felt personal. A signed document felt official. Ink carried weight. Artists continued to sketch with pens. Calligraphers practiced ancient strokes. Tradition survived. Tattoo artists used ink on skin. Stories marked permanently. Identity written on the body. Comics and graphic novels flourished. Bold lines shaped imagination. Ink defined characters. In courts and governments, important papers still required signatures. Digital copies were not enough. During elections, ballots were printed. Citizens marked choices with ink. Democracy left visible marks. Even in a digital world, people kept journals by hand. Thoughts flowed through pens. Ink remained a bridge between mind and paper. Slow, intentional. Screens could glow brightly, but they could also fade or crash. Paper could survive quietly in a drawer. Ancient manuscripts still exist today, centuries old, readable because of ink. Digital files can vanish with a corrupted drive. Technology moves fast, but it can be fragile. So the question remained, was ink becoming outdated, or was it simply evolving? The world stood between two systems: liquid marks on paper, invisible code on screens. Both carried knowledge. Both shaped society. Both influenced power. Few people realized the deeper truth. The story of ink was not ending. It was transforming, because ink was never only about liquid. It was about permanence, about trust, and soon, the meaning of ink would expand once again, in ways no one in ancient Egypt could have imagined. In a quiet archive room, a librarian opens a centuries-old manuscript. The ink is still dark. The paper is fragile, but the words remain clear. Time has not erased them. Across the city, a teenager scrolls on a glowing screen. Information moves with a finger. Two worlds exist at once. One written in liquid and fiber. One written in light and code. But the strange part was, both worlds depend on the same idea: making thoughts visible. Ink once meant soot and oil. Now it also means digital traces. Data stored in silent servers. When you type a message, no bottle tips over, yet a mark is still made. Your words travel as signals. They cross oceans in seconds. They settle on distant screens. In a way, modern code is invisible ink. It carries memory forward. But invisibility has a weakness. Digital records can be altered quietly, edited without leaving stains. A handwritten note shows pressure. It shows pauses. It shows the writer's hand. Ink reveals personality, the curve of a letter, the strength of a signature. That is why some traditions remain. Legal documents still require inked signatures. Ceremonies still involve signing names. A marriage certificate, a peace treaty, a final will. Ink marks moments that matter. It signals commitment. It signals decision. In classrooms, children still learn to write by hand. Their fingers grip pens carefully. Each letter feels slow at first. The page fills gradually. Confidence grows with every stroke. Few people think about it, but handwriting connects brain and body. Ink becomes part of learning. Artists continue to choose ink. They sketch city streets. They outline human faces. A single black line can express emotion. Minimal, powerful. Calligraphers still grind ink sticks on stone, just as they did centuries ago. The sound is soft and steady. The ritual itself feels meaningful. Preparation before expression. Patience before creation. In contrast, digital text appears instantly, fast and efficient. But speed is not always depth. Convenience is not always reflection. Ink encourages slowing down. Think of a diary written by hand. The pages carry emotion. The ink may smudge with tears. Think of a letter from a grandparent. The handwriting is familiar. The paper carries scent and memory. Screens cannot fully replace that feeling. They display words, but they lack texture. Still, we cannot ignore progress. Digital knowledge reaches billions, faster than any printing press. Medical research spreads globally in minutes. Educational videos reach remote villages. Access has expanded dramatically. Ink once changed knowledge by making it reproducible. Now technology makes it immediate. The first transformation was about quantity. More books, more readers. The second transformation is about speed. Instant update, global connection. But the core question remains. How do we preserve truth? How do we protect memory? Ancient scribes trusted their formulas. Monks trusted iron gall ink. Printers trusted oil-based mixtures. Today, we trust encryption, cloud storage, digital backups, different tools, same desire to make knowledge last. When historians study our time, they may not hold paper. They may read data archives. Yet the principle is familiar. Human beings want to leave a trace, to say, we were here. From cave charcoal, to oil-based press ink, to invisible code, each step expanded who could speak. Each step expanded who could learn. Each step reshaped society. Ink did not just record history. It created it. It moved revolutions. It built universities. It preserved science. It connected strangers across time. Without ink, many ideas would have vanished. Many voices would be silent. The strange part is this. Ink was never powerful by itself. It was powerful because of us. A drop of liquid, a sheet of paper, a human mind. Together, they formed civilizations. They formed laws and poems. They formed knowledge systems. Even today, when you sign your name, you continue that long tradition. You leave a visible mark. You confirm your presence. You join a history thousands of years old. And when you type on a screen, you are doing the same in a new form. Creating modern ink. The tool may change. The surface may change. But the desire to record remains. The ink that changed knowledge is not just in bottles or cartridges. It lives in every written idea. It lives in preserved books, in archived documents, in digital libraries. It lives in your notebook, in your messages, in your thoughts waiting to be written. So next time you see a drop of ink or a blinking cursor on a screen, remember its long journey. From soot and sap, to printing presses, to silent data centers, ink changed who could learn. It changed who could speak. It changed who could lead. And perhaps the most important question is this. What will you choose to write? What knowledge will you pass forward? Because every mark, visible or invisible, shapes the future. The story of ink is still being written. It continues with every signature, with every shared idea. If this story made you see writing differently, stay curious. There are many more hidden stories waiting on the page.